So, traditional Jewish, Christian, and Muslim. To understand atheist and agnostic as well as many times.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly. That's where you go. La 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 la. I don't know why you're not doing the singing. You actually got a good set of pipes on you. Unlike this one here. So, 'tis the season. Jesus is the reason for the season, in fact.
That's what they say on all the billboards. No credit at all given to axial tilt.
Nope. So today, we're talking about how Christmas has been branded. Because it is, in fact, a pagan holiday.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
There's a lot of things that are certainly not Christian in origin, but celebrating the birth of Christ in general is not a pagan tradition.
No, that would not be it.
And picking a day has some interesting external influences. And the way we celebrate it definitely gets some extra plumage from its neighbors.
Ooh, plumage. I like that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things where you just associate with Christmas that, exactly, have other origins because we're in a global globe.
Yeah. Christianity, as it spread around Europe and then the rest of the world, definitely tried really hard not to alienate the people they were trying to bring into the fold, which meant sometimes not saying, stop doing that, and instead saying, let's apply a Christian value to that thing you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So that's a thing we got.
Perfect. We have a list of things, a whole bunch of things we associate with Christmas that have a non-Christian origin.
Yeah. So when we started writing these notes, you sent me this fantastic little essay, I guess. Yeah, it's an essay written by Vivian Bricker, who has a master's degree in Christian ministry, and it's available on Christianity.com. So you'd think it should be a really good article. And her whole thing is about debunking the idea that Christmas is a pagan holiday. As somebody who agrees with that thesis point, it was the worst essay I've ever read, ever.
Yeah, I thought it was terrible because it really was like, it's not quite a counterpoint.
No, it's just Vivian Bricker repeatedly saying Christmas is about celebrating the birth of Jesus.
Forget the fact that all of these things have a non-Christian origin.
Yeah, it was so terrible. I'm going to make sure the link is in the show notes for anybody who wants to see what we're talking about. This is a high-profile website, and she has a master's degree in Christian ministry. I don't know why this essay is so bad.
Well, and yeah, I mean, it doesn't do anything to convince anyone.
No.
That
I went in agreeing with the main point, and I could not enjoy the article at all. In fact, if I had been any less convinced of the point, I might have actually been persuaded against her just because of how badly it's written.
Yeah.
So that sucks.
Enjoy, listeners.
Yeah, but let's take a look at some of these specific things.
One of my favorites that I do on November 12th is put up my Christmas tree. Because we're in Canada, 12th. So we don't have Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's already long over. So yeah, I put up my Christmas tree right after Remembrance Day or Memorial Day if you're in the States.
Yeah, that's my bare minimum. I like to keep Christmas to December. That's my personal rule.
No,
but
it's too short then. It's only 24 days then.
It's a whole 12th of the year. And December is one of the longer months. And especially if you celebrate Christmas at all in January.
Right.
Because we've got a huge population that celebrates a week into January.
That's true.
So you get a month and a week. That's pretty...
Okay.
That's enough for me.
Okay. Scrooge.
I also grew up with 2 Christmases, so...
Oh.
It's enough, I guess, for me.
All right. So because it stays green all year, evergreen plants have always been a symbol of life throughout the winter months. Long before Christianity, these trees, wreaths, and boughs were thought to ward off evil. Saturnalia, a Roman pagan festival, has many links to our current Christmas traditions, including the use of greenery. Held during the winter solstice, people would celebrate Saturnalia by hanging evergreen boughs to symbolize the upcoming planting season. The Egyptians would fill their homes with green plants at the solstice as well to celebrate Ra, recovering from illness, and the hawk-headed god has a sun in his crown. Also, to celebrate their sun god, the Norse would plant trees in honor of Baldur. Baldur.
I like Baldur. He's an interesting fella. We only talked about him a little bit in our Norse paganism episode.
Yeah.
Paganism is a funny word.
Right.
Just
it means not
is
Christian.
not. Yeah. It's not as useful a word as we like it to be.
No. So all these are obviously celebrating the return of spring and the return of the sun. The Christmas tree as we know it comes from the German Tannenbaum, or a fir tree. It is commonly believed that German Christians first brought the Christmas tree inside the family home, and the unlikely story persists that Martin Luther was the first to turn the whole thing into an active fire hazard with lit candles in an effort to show his presumably bedridden family what stars look like when shining between the branches of the trees.
Yeah, what a guy.
What a guy. Yep, when they used to put real candles on trees. Even when I was a kid, they had like incandescent light bulbs that would get really fucking hot, and the tree was, I mean, I guess it'd be a hazard if it was a plastic tree or a real tree, but we had a real tree. Like, that is also asking.
Yeah, it's a good thing we've started using LEDs, because a lot of people have lost their homes to their Christmas trees.
I should have laughed.
I mean, the situation of having your family home burned down, not so funny. Knowing that you're bringing in a fire hazard is what we call funny behavior.
Irony.
Sure.
So there were some big changes in 1848. Prince Albert, the German husband of Queen Victoria, put up a Christmas tree in Windsor Castle. And it very quickly became an English tradition and then, of course, spreading to the North American colonies. And then, we have the big-ass tree at Rockefeller Center.
Have you seen it?
Not live.
It's actually really impressive.
Did you wait in
person.
line?
No.
No, I had a friend who went to like the lighting of it, and you had to wait for 8 hours, and it had like, you know, obviously this is post 9/11, but like full airport security, and you weren't once you were in, you weren't allowed to leave. So I'm pretty sure lots of people just wore adult diapers or starved themselves.
That sounds awful.
Yeah.
I just happened to be in New York in December of 2009, and the tree was up, and I got to see it, and it absolutely massive.
That's amazing.
It's really impressive to see in person.
There's like a medallion, a massive ass medallion in the sidewalk to show where it like sits. That's as close as I've seen, but I've never been to New York in the winter.
It's pretty great.
Awesome. The first of the Rockefeller trees was in 1931, and it was small and undecorated, and it was put up on the construction site by one of the workers. That's really cute.
Right.
And it was first lit in 1933. There's also a suspiciously large German population in Guatemala, so they like Christmas trees too.
There was a migration.
Yes, there was. Early colonial Puritans and conservative Americans labeled the trees as pagan out of simple ignorance because it wasn't their version of Christianity. We've heard this before in other areas. They also really hated Christmas carols because singing about things that make you happy, being happy is a sin.
Yeah. The Puritans are hard to hang out with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rough stuff. So the Christmas tree, pretty Christmassy, but it's definitely got its roots in other religious symbolism dating before Christianity.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty Christian in its current popular form. And if you're using LED bulbs, safer.
So safe. Please, everyone, use LED bulbs if you haven't switched yet.
Right.
They're like 20 bucks at Canadian Tire.
And they don't burn out. You can flick them and they don't break the little fuse in the middle. It's just a great choice.
We had this conversation. My dad put up my Christmas lights this year, and one of the lights broke. And remember when if you broke one light, the entire strand would go out?
Yep.
Not anymore.
Yeah, it's great.
That's right. I let my 70-year-old father go on my room because I didn't want to. Thanks, Dad.
I always forget how much older so many people's parents are than
I have
themselves.
very old parents.
My parents were relatively young when I was born.
My parents were 38 when I was born.
Yeah.
Now I've mathematically told you my age. Pop it in the Discord if you get your math right.
It doesn't even count as math. It's basic arithmetic.
No. All right, Preston, what's our next one?
Actually, I was thinking more about those trees.
Oh.
There's a growing business in some places where people will rent you a Christmas tree.
Right, a real Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And then you replant it and get it next year.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Now, the problem with that is the vast majority of us, if we get a live Christmas tree, it is up way too long and is definitely dead by the time we're done with it.
Yeah, and this is why as much as I love like the smell of a fresh tree, I switched because I'm a November 12th person to New Year's. I switched to a plastic tree. But I'd be curious, someone who is actually in like the world of sustainability, which is better / worse for the planet, because we got a really good quality tree. We'll probably use this tree forever.
Right?
But it's made of plastic. As opposed to cutting down a tree where I don't know what's better for the world.
I don't know. Our plastic tree is black, and we've been using it for 10 years. So the funny thing is we didn't choose a black Christmas tree.
Really? That surprised me.
No.
Knowing your wife.
My wife's mom brought it to us.
Oh, nice.
Picked it up somewhere. I don't remember where. And we opened it up. And her mom was very disappointed that it wasn't green. My wife was just like, it's perfect.
Aww. That's really cute. I love that.
Yeah. So there's actually very little green on it, even once we've got it all decorated. The only green, I think, is the rope of the lights.
Nice. Not celebrating the upcoming harvest.
No,
at the Preston household.
No, it's a time of darkness.
Darkness, they dead.
But the lights are good. Yeah, so we do typically like to sing at Christmas.
Here we go, wassailing.
It's, wassailing or wassailing?
I mean, wassailing is how you say it in the song. Here we come, wassailing.
Okay. I accept it. It's spelt wassailing.
Yeah, no, it's wassailing.
Like was sailing.
I mean, it's a British word, and they don't pronounce a lot of letters.
That's fair. Like Worcestershire.
Or
Worcester.
Smithwick's, the beer. It's spelled Smithwick's, but you say Smithwick's.
Sure. Ignoring one letter at a time is easy. Ignoring a bunch of letters.
That's true.
That's more Massachusetts. And we'll talk more about Massachusetts later.
All right, let's talk about wassailing and caroling.
So we what we typically call caroling in North America originated as wassailing. The term is still quite common in Europe, and you might be familiar with the carol, Here We Come A-Wassailing. I'm not, but...
I just tried to sing it.
I know. I'm still not familiar with it. I got nothing.
Fine.
You might also be familiar with the popular story, A Christmas Carol. I think that's probably a lot more common in our audience.
Okay. Especially the Muppet version is my favorite.
It's pretty great.
Best version.
Wassailing was a pagan tradition that came in two forms, door-to-door and orchard. So door-to-door singing seems like really odd behavior.
I think I've had carolers, and this is when I was very small, come to my house once.
Yeah?
And now...
I went and did it a couple of times as a kid.
I believe it. And now... And I mean, I'm an atheist, but now I feel like we're just so diverse. And not that I want to get on the War Against Christmas train. Please hear episode from last year? 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. But yeah, you wouldn't want to knock on someone's door who wouldn't appreciate it either.
Right.
So I don't know how popular door-to-door wassailing
I feel
is
like
anymore.
door-to-door wassailing is probably not like a door to the next door to the next door,
So,
but
like,
you've got a
your-
list of places that you know where people live and you want to visit them.
In your congregation.
Yeah.
Should we go waffling this year? To our Patreon subscribers?
What would we sing?
Here we come a waffling.
Okay. With no religious message at all. It's just, here we are, we're singing at you for the holidays.
Sorry. I'm getting this right off track.
Orchard singing, though, you've got a garden, a place where people are already congregating and singing together. That makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell us more about each of them, Preston.
So door-to-door wassailing eventually evolved into what we're familiar with as going caroling. Peasants would sing songs for their landlords in hopes of receiving coins or food or wassail, a beverage.
Okay.
Food or wassail, which is different than a waffle. It's a kind of beverage, sort of similar to eggnog, I guess. It's hopefully delicious. Eggnog has been perfected. I don't know if wassail is as good. Maybe that's a thing we need to study.
Sure, it does have egg in it.
That doesn't mean it's good.
No, I know. That's actually one of the reasons eggnog is often not good.
Right? But it's worth a shot.
Yeah.
So find yourself a wassail vendor.
Oh, maybe we should get my husband into wassail
Sure.
in addition to his eggnog business.
Right? Could be great. Wassailing degraded into drunken begging and then petered off until it was rejuvenated with Christmas carols. So, probably for the best.
Yeah, just deciding you need money, so you go pound on someone's door and start singing. Yeah.
Yeah. Orchard wassailing is interesting to talk about because it's associated with the winter solstice, specifically Yule, as you'll often hear it called, which is connected to the new year and the winter season. People would go out into the apple orchards and sing to the trees to wake them up for spring. And it's just a great group activity, and people love live music. Some traditions also include making lots of noise, like banging pots and pans, in addition to singing. I had a roommate that did this at New Year, and it just felt really weird, banging pots and pans out in the street.
Was he the only one doing it?
Yeah.
Then yeah, it is weird.
Like other traditions, caroling can attribute its beginnings to pagans, apparently, because, people sing about stuff.
People sang before Christianity was a thing.
Yeah. I feel weird about saying that Christianity adopted singing from pagan traditions, but definitely the specific traditions around Christmas carols are pretty obviously coming from outside the local tradition. Pagan groups would sing songs around the holidays, and if they were singing songs about, say, their gods, yeah, the Catholics would hate that.
Do you think when they were singing to the trees, they'd sing "Wake Me Up Before You Go"? Because I can see the Catholic Church not liking that. It's too much fun.
Sure. Yeah. A lot of religions, sing about the things that make you happy, sing about the things that are comfortable in life, the things you enjoy. Most Christian music is, Jesus is good, and I can't wait till I'm dead. It's terrible.
Yeah, there's also a lot of self-deprecation. That's
Sure.
the word I'm looking for. And I don't even deserve you, Jesus.
Yeah, that's true.
And I can't wait till I'm dead.
Yeah.
Because you're the best.
Yeah.
I'd add that as a third category.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So I hope you all waffle this year.
Next, we have more green stuff.
Mistletoe. Mistletoe is also pagan.
Mistletoe is a plant.
Mistletoe is a pagan plant. It does not believe in Christianity. Does not believe in anything. It's a plant.
I don't know. I think some people have worked pretty hard to convert their plants to their faith. Some people talk to their plants.
I talked to my plant.
See?
We had a conversation about Paige being Muslim yesterday.
Okay.
Anyway, Paige is my dog. Just clarify.
Yes, that's why that's funny.
Yeah, and she can't because she's a dog. She's haram. Anyway.
Yeah.
Mistletoe has always been a useful plant. We know that the Greeks and the Celts used it as a medicinal cure for a lot of different ailments, treating arthritis, high blood pressure, epilepsy, and infertility.
And if you know anything about medicine, if it cures everything, it's not likely very good for anything.
Mistletoe can even cure you from the ailment of life.
Yeah. The European mistletoe is pretty toxic. There's actually thousands of varieties of mistletoe, being a thing related to sandalwood, which also has many varieties. But you hear a lot more about it being toxic and don't eat it here, because here kids are dumb and eat Tide Pods and mistletoe occasionally. North American mistletoe is not nearly as toxic as European mistletoe.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, good to know.
Right? For the just-in-case situations.
And it is supposed to protect you from witches and demons.
I mean, so far so good, right?
I mean, if you can kill a man with it, then yeah. Do you think it would protect from that? However, the link between mistletoe and romance can be linked to the Celts, pre-Christianity. Because mistletoe blooms in the winter, it became a symbol for the vivacity and fertility. The Celts viewed the white berries as the semen of Tyrannus, which is the Celtic version of Jupiter, Thor, thunder god. And the ancient Greeks had very similar thoughts. They called the berries oak sperm and considered it a sign of virility. Can you roll your eyes?
Sometimes.
I can't.
The horny berry.
The horny berry.
Yeah. So, you'd hang up the mistletoe and demand a kiss, and it was bad luck to refuse such an offer.
That sounds...
rapey.
Okay. I didn't want to say it.
It's like opening an umbrella in the house is bad luck. No, you're gonna knock something over, then your mom's gonna beat you. I feel like this situation is pretty similar with mistletoe. If you refuse a kiss, something immediate bad things are gonna happen to you at the hands of the man demanding a kiss. And that's why mistletoe doesn't hang in my house. Because I don't need that tradition to linger.
I mean, it's just you and your wife.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you're right. She can say no to kissing.
She can say
That's
no.
True. Fair. All right.
Yule logs. Now, we talked a little bit about the wonderful tradition of fire a couple years ago, but figure it's part of this collection of Christmassy related things. So, about 300 years ago, Henry Bourne was pretty sure that nobody could remember when they started burning the Yule log. But he was pretty sure it was started by the Saxons to get the sun to come back. Unfortunately, nobody knew enough to say, nah, you're wrong, or say, yeah, you're right, which is a little annoying. And, of course, scholarship since that time hasn't come up with a whole lot of new proof of old things. So that's the story we have. It sounds plausible based on what we see religions talking about.
Yeah.
If
it's pre-Christian, it's either wanting spring to come or
Right.
warding off demons.
Right. But of course, the story was told in about 1700. I didn't write down the exact date. It was about 300 years ago. So people have been Christian talking about Yule logs for long enough to lose the origin story.
But humans naturally just love fire, so...
Yeah, it's great, especially when we're cold. It keeps us alive.
Chef's kiss, and I punched the mic. Chef's kiss.
Yeah, and I'm 100% sure that that's the motivation behind the Yule log of, it's cold, it's going to keep us alive.
You know what I mean? That's why we have a fireplace.
Yeah, but there's more for Yule. There's also the Yule boar, sometimes called Sonargolter.
Gulter.
The big Germanic Christmas ham.
Ooh.
Yep. because, of course, Christianity itself has no reason why we should have a ham at Christmas. But Dr. Seuss really made sure that we would all make sure we had our roast beast. Mm-hmm. And it comes from the old Germanic tradition that on Yule's Eve, solemn vows of fidelity to the king were made with a hand on the boar's head, and then everyone would eat the boar.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like that.
Right?
That's cool.
I mean, if you're into fidelity to the king, it's very handy. And if you want to live through the winter, you might need to be faithful to your king.
Yep.
And I don't know. I've never heard of Christians jumping on the whole oath to the king thing as we're gonna renew our covenant to Jesus as the King of Kings for Christmas. But it wouldn't surprise me if I had heard of something like that.
I feel like the song Good King Wenceslas talks about.
About Sonargolter?
Yeah.
I don't know the words to that song.
I'm Googling it.
Okay.
No, he talks about bring me flesh and bring me wine.
Okay. So we can assume the flesh probably pig, but that's just an assumption.
Yeah, anyway, that's what I thought of when you told me that story.
Okay. Cool.
So, parents of small children.
Now's a good time to stop.
Now's a good time to tuck them into bed and read them a Christmas story and turn off this podcast.
And come back to it later without them around.
We'll wait. All right, so we all know Santa isn't real.
But he is real.
But he's an amalgamation
of so many things.
Of a lot of things that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Father Christmas is actually Odin. At Yule, Odin would lead the wild hunt through the sky. Odin has often been portrayed as an old man with a beard.
That's kind of in line with the Santa image that we have today.
Absolutely. Some scholars say that the reindeer are inspired by our very favorite Sleipnir, which is Loki's child.
Right. Count all those legs and bam, now we've got a whole bunch of reindeer.
A whole bunch of reindeer.
It went from a bunch of noise to a bunch more noise on the rooftops.
Right. Which we all managed to sleep through as children.
Nonsense. No. Magic is a wonderful thing.
It's true. But Odin's not the only one Santa is inspired by. There is also a Siberian deity, Dead Moroz, which literally translates to Grandfather Frost, who is associated with the classic red and white color scheme. He also has a long white beard and rides in a sleigh, though his sleigh is pulled by horses. Dead Moroz predates Christianity.
Now, did the red color scheme also predate Christian arrivals in that area?
Did red even exist so long ago? Kidding.
I like when the red water flows.
No, stop. I didn't find anything that said that specifically, but he's always portrayed as the guy in red, so
sure.
I would assume. But.
I wonder if that's a deliberately sinister thing.
Maybe.
I don't know. Now I've got The Village in my head.
Uh-oh.
Good old Shyamalan. So the most obviously Christian part of Santa Claus is good old St. Nicholas, who was a Greek bishop in Turkey in the early 4th century. Bishop Claus dressed in the traditional red of the bishops. Mm-hmm. But it is interesting that there is parallels in Siberia, which is not close to Greece.
No.
St. Nicholas feast day is earlier in December, varying from one church to the other. Sometimes it's the 5th, the 6th, the 18th. You got options depending on your church, I suppose. And he would drop off gifts very often in people's shoes or socks. Just little trinkets usually, nothing like an Xbox.
Yeah, Xboxes should be parent gifts. Always.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're given this great big gift that's going to be something you're going to be paying off your credit card for a little while, you're going to want to hear thank you, Mom and Dad, not thank you, Santa, knowing that Santa didn't help.
But also when your kid goes to school and says, Santa brought me an Xbox, and some poor kid's like, well, Santa brought me a candy cane.
Right.
It's terrible.
Well, Santa likes rich kids.
Santa likes rich kids better than poor kids. That makes me sad.
Yeah. This is why you should not have your children in the room for this discussion.
So yeah, Santa, as we know him, is an amalgamation of a whole bunch of cool people.
Yeah. Not just St. Nicholas. But things got weird. And now we have a exciting Santa that is now the feature of several film franchises.
My favorite Christmas decoration on my tree is our Santar.
Yes.
And it's Santa Claus is the human half, but he's like shirtless and ripped, and they've got like mittens and a beard and a hat, and then he's a horse, and that's Santar. And that's my favorite version.
I feel like the bottom half should have been a reindeer.
I mean, it might be. I don't know.
You have to take another look at that tail. That might be the only giveaway.
Okay, I'll take a look.
The hoofs should be good, but also plastic molding is hard to tell for sure.
Right.
We'll take a look sometime. So yeah, we've talked about how there's some difficulty with the date of Christmas, and part of it does look like it's inspired by pagan traditions pretty solidly.
And the winter solstice.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah.
I mean, all the pagan traditions are part of the winter solstice, but
yeah. So we've talked about probably twice before
at least,
that there's some pretty solid evidence that it was not December 25th and that most scholars place his birth likely in the spring of some year between 6 and 4 BCE, which I have to take issue with, that dating relies entirely on what I would call an unreasonable level of faith put in the King Herod portion of the story. That is just, knowing the rest of the story, it doesn't make sense that King Herod needs to be part of the story at all. But it's what we have, and that's become the primary anchor when people talk about dating this story. So, yay, we have that to deal with. One hypothesis that I am currently a big fan of is the idea that Mary would have made that very long trek to Jerusalem for a feast like Passover.
a feast like Passover.
Yeah.
I get it.
That's almost what came out.
There are many, many, many traditions that celebrate the winter solstice, pre-Christian and Christian adjacent. Roman Saturnalia, Persian Yelda, Soyal, you name it. Every culture and religious tradition seems to have a celebration commemorating the coming of the new year and the lengthening of the days. Symbolically, these festivals are associated with light or rebirth and claiming victory over darkness, evil, or death. Is there a better time of year than to announce the arrival of the morning star?
Hard to say. I like springtime. You know, when things are actually coming back to life.
I like summer, because I'm always cold.
Sure, that's fair.
The first recorded Christmas celebration was in Rome on December 25th, 336 CE. Some people say December 25th was chosen because it's 9 months after the Annunciation, celebrated March 25th, except that the Annunciation was nailed down about the same time or even after.
Yeah, it's... Math is a great thing to use, but count the years and that's the argument falls apart.
Fair.
It's, a little annoying. That's the defense that the Catholic Church uses is that, well, we celebrate the Annunciation here, so 9 months later, but the Annunciation wasn't celebrated and nailed down until the 3rd or 4th century.
Nailed down the birth of Jesus.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. It's a little weird.
A lot of Christians didn't even recognize the Feast of Christmas until after the coronation of Emperor Charlemagne on December 25th, 800 CE.
Yeah. Before that, there was actually a lot of argument about whether or not Christians should be celebrating Christmas, which is a solid argument that a lot of people ignore on whether or not Christmas is a properly Christian holiday or something that's just thrown onto outsider religious traditions. So
But you gotta make up some holidays.
Well, everything's made up. Literally everything.
Oh, I know that, but that's what I mean. If you're gonna get people to buy in,
yeah,
they gotta have some parties to show for it.
Right? Well, unless you're one of those people who thinks that partying is bad.
Yes.
And let's talk about that.
Oh.
In 1956, the Puritanical General Court of Massachusetts banned the material observation of Christmas on December 25th. Literally anything other than going to church was a criminal offense.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is too extreme.
Yep.
But I also hate the commercialism of Christmas, so one part of me is like, no! You almost got me.
Right? Yeah, a similar group of Puritans in England had actually managed to ban Christmas in England for a little while, until the year after it was banned in Massachusetts. In 1660, the ban was overthrown as ridiculous.
Yeah.
So England also has a weird relationship, historically speaking, with Christmas. But Charles Dickens has really made it a forever thing.
I love A Christmas Carol because it's a secular story.
Right?
Makes me very
with
happy.
ghosts.
With ghosts. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never actually read the book, but watching the movie, there's all the various movies that I've seen. I don't remember anything going, now this is a really good reason to worship Jesus.
It's a good book. My dad tries to read it every year. I've read it a couple times at Christmas, but usually Christmas is so hectic by the time I think about it.
Yeah.
January.
Right. Yeah, life is busy. Reading the same book every year. Only so many books can make that list, and Dickens doesn't for me.
Wow. Well, we hope you listeners have a very Merry Christmas or a Happy Holiday or anything other.
If you celebrate Christmas, hope you enjoy it. If you don't celebrate Christmas,
rock on.
Stay strong, suffer through everybody else being a pain in the ass, because it's the season when people really suck in public.
Yeah.
Avoid the malls.
Yeah, Preston put that more eloquently than what I tried to say. Thanks, friend.
No worries. Speaking of the materialism that makes Christmas kind of suck,
Buy from us.
We do have a merch store, and we would love to sell some of our goods. I'm pretty proud of the things we have available, and hopefully you've got somebody on your list who would also enjoy them.
If you don't want to buy one-off and want to support us long term, we also have our Patreon, and a big thank you to our Patreon subscriber, Lisa, for your ongoing support. We have a book club, we have early release and bonus episodes, we have whatever you want to fit your budget and needs. Also, please join our community. We have Discord and Facebook and Instagram, and there's a lot of great conversations about religion and friendship.
Yeah, everything. We just have a really good time in this community.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas. If not, peace be with you anyway.
Christian Puritans.